Good morning, folks. Mannix is my name. I'm here today from Dropbox Business. And thanks very much for your time. What I'm going to do today is we're going to talk through where Dropbox came from and where we are now. And what the real point of the talk today is around the business impact of collaboration. So collaboration is one of those buzzwords that is very much overused today in today's world. And what I really want to focus on is the issues that we see with the way that people are working, the solutions that we can bring, but more importantly for the audience here today is that the real business impact that collaboration can bring. And what we want to really, where Dropbox focuses is from the ground up, from the user up. So I know that the audience here today is coming at a strategic level and is responsible for many multi-million euros of budget. But what I want to do today is talk about the people on the ground, the challenges they face, and how if we can get them working together, we can drive better business results. Wrong clicker. So where did Dropbox come from? Dropbox started as about 10, 11 years ago. Drew, our founder, was on a bus. He left his USB key at home. And because he wasn't able to do his work, instead of like most students falling asleep on the bus, he actually wrote the code that became Dropbox. So Dropbox started as a place where you could have your folder online and access to all your information. And then that moved on to be able to share your folder with other people, which nowadays is commonplace, but 10, 11 years ago was quite revolutionary. And where we are today is that we're keeping teams in place. So we've evolved from people to groups to businesses and keeping businesses in place. Dropbox Business, just to give you a bit of background, because it's something that we always have to address early in any talk that we do, is that we have bank-level encryption. Security is the foundation of everything that we do. We comply with all the relevant certifications and compliance standards globally, and we have a best-in-class partner ecosystem to which we integrate constantly. And that's all led us to where we are today. We look after more than 400,000 businesses globally, and we have some of the biggest brands in the world as customers, including The Lonely Planet, the BBC, Channel 4, and News Corp. And what I want to do is just give you a little bit of background to set the scene of how people are using Dropbox, and then we'll really want to get into the meat of the talk today. Just want to show you a quick video. So that's all really well and good, but I didn't pass any waterfalls this morning on my way into work. So how relevant is that to where we are today, and what are we really seeing in the way that people are working? So over the last 10 years, we've seen massive changes in the way people have worked. Email has exploded, it's moved into instant messaging, meetings have turned into video calls, and life is getting very, very complicated for those people. Teams are expanding. So not just the teams that are in your business, but now it's freelancers, it's contractors. There's a lot more action happening outside the walls of your IT estate in a lot of cases than that's happening inside it. The files themselves are getting larger, they're getting more complex, and there's more of them. The users want to use all the apps that they know, the FaceTime and the WhatsApp, and they want that real usability. But for you guys in the room, you have the responsibility, the adults in the room have the responsibility around the security and everything else that goes with that. And how do we get the two worlds to collide? But what we're seeing is with this explosion of apps and tools, beyond just your C drive or your D drive on your computer, into your phone, into these external teams, there's been an explosion about work. And we're seeing it everywhere. So the example that we use is Beth. So Beth is a parole officer in Kansas in the middle of America. And she's a parole officer, she's a civil servant. She, in theory, has a very simple IT setup. She goes to work, works on her files. But when we actually sat down with users and we did a global user survey, and this was one of our most interesting ones, because we would have thought this would have been the most straightforward. But when we actually spoke to her and we mapped out her day, this is what we got. This is what her information flow, the people that she has to deal with, the different teams, the different groups. I don't know if that chimes with anybody in the room. If anybody has a similar type of a setup, I hope not. But even if we simplify it out and we put a nice graphic on it, it's still very complicated. She has drives, she has Dropbox, she has attachments, she has video calls, she's all sorts of things going on. So she's got lots of tools. And a lot of them are not talking to each other, and a lot of them are not talking to each other by design. She's got bespoke case management systems that she works on, and then she's got all her general email and her Microsoft and all that good stuff. But the real meat of this is the volume of people that she has to deal with on a daily basis. So she's a civil servant. She seems to have quite a simple job. But in fact, she has to deal with the police authorities. She has to deal with the courthouse. She has to deal with clients. She has to deal with staff. She might have 20 or 30 cases on the go at any one time. She's got her internal team. She's got the police. And if you try and get the police to courthouse on her clients, well, maybe not her clients, given a parole officer, but if you try and get them to speak to each other, you'll find that it's very difficult. And that's, at Dropbox, that's what we think is the real opportunity to really rationalize what's going on out there. McKinsey did a study recently, and they reckon that people's time, of the people that you hire, they're spending less than 40% of their time on doing the actual work you're paying them for doing. And the rest of it they're doing is they're human search engines, searching for things, trying to find out what's going on, talking to guys, did you get this? Did you get that? Have you ticked that box? A lot of wasted time and effort. We also see the big evolution that we're seeing is that 2/3 of people around the world are working from the office at least one day a week. So this conference is a good case in point. Not only are they working away from the office one day a week, but they're also working on more international and globally dispersed teams. So just the people in the room, are there many people who have teams in Prague or India or are globally spread out? On a show of hands. Yeah, okay. So we see that it's quite a common thing now with the proliferation. But how do you get it? So it's great in theory, but how do you get it to work in practice? So all this is leading to, an explosion of work about work. And it's leading to people's workflows like this, and it's leading to people tearing their hair out on a constant basis. At Dropbox, what we want to do is we want to bring simplicity to this complexity. We want to take the file landscape that existed, that was set up in the 1980s, and we want to bring it to 2020 and beyond. And if you think about it now, for any children of the 80s, you know, this system that we all work in is about 30 or 40 years old, the setup. So where we're working towards is providing a place where you can have your PowerPoint 2005, you can have your Excel 2010, you can have your Google Sheet, you can have your Adobe, you can have your Autodesk. They can all live in the same place. You can also invite the team members in. They can all sit in the same place. And then you can start bringing in your Slack and your Zoom and all of these other tools that people want to use to get their work done. And bringing real simplicity to the complexity of people's workflows. Now that's all great, Mannix. Thanks very much for all the nice slides. It's really lovely. But you know, you guys are responsible for multi-million euro budgets. You've got teams of staff. You have cybersecurity risks, which are growing day by day, ransomware attacks and the like. So what does this all mean for businesses? And why do they invest in Dropbox Business? In 2018, the British Broadcasting Corporation selected Dropbox Enterprise as its strategic storage and collaboration platform for its entire workforce. It's 25,000 people. And they're also big Office 365 customers. Because one of the things that we see all the time is, well, we have Office 365, so why would we need something like Dropbox? And the reason is that the BBC deals with a lot of complex processes. They have 25,000 employees, but then they have a massive ecosystem of freelancers. They have photographers, they have actors, actresses. They have logistics people. They have sets. They're out on site in the middle of nowhere taking pictures. And the issue is that you've got this big corporate with this fantastic IT infrastructure, and you've got the man in the van. And how do you get the man in the van to talk to the system? And what if there's 10 men in 10 different vans? Or ladies in the vans. So how do they all talk together? So you've got 25,000 people. The file types are only getting bigger. They're only getting more complex. The systems are only getting out of hand. So that's why the BBC selected Dropbox, to bring that simplicity into the complexity that they were seeing. Their staff had actually already chosen that themselves and were actually already actively using it. And what they did was they put the administration layer in on top of it. The other one then is Expedia. So Expedia is a large global online travel agent. And they're very much democratized and they're very much diversified. And they have, so their IT manager, the quote from those guys is, with Dropbox, we were able to deliver to employees a solution that works on any device, on any platform, no matter where our employees are based. I have team members in Prague and India, and now they're sharing more than just a file system. Dropbox Business is a tool that they can collaborate on. So we're moving beyond cold storage. Cold storage is 10 years ago. What we really want is, how does the guy in Prague and the guy in Delhi and the guy in London talk to each other on a constant basis? How do they get their work done? How do they work on files beyond Office files? The next one then that we have is one of the world's fastest growing businesses. 300 million downloads. They've completely revolutionized where they're going and what they're doing. And they've changed the landscape of how people meet, fall in love, and get married. I won't ask anybody to take out the app. But the next one is Tinder. So I got married 9 years ago. Tinder didn't exist. But now all of a sudden Tinder is on 300 million smartphones around the world. And it has dramatically changed the face of love as we know it. But the real point about this is, how do you grow a business from 0 to 300 million downloads and change an entire way of social activity and do it efficiently? Dropbox is a part of that. So as an example, so for the designers, it's not just about saving time, it's about not interrupting my flow. Projects can take up to 8 months, 600 files, and up to 30 gigabytes. So when you're getting up to 600 files and up to 30 gigabytes, and you're working with teams that are globally dispersed, you've moved beyond moving an Excel sheet from Mary to Johnny around the office. You're doing major work, you're growing an unbelievable business at scale. The file size have exploded, and the complexity and the amount of external teams. They don't have all these people sitting in-house as employees. They're using freelancers, they're using contractors, they're using the best in breed. And how does that all fit then into the IT ecosystem? What's the security layer down on top of that? And the last one is built. So the point here today is, what's the business impact of collaboration? And this is my favorite one, because of all the industries that we deal with, construction can be like, the construction companies will go out and spend €1 million on a big digger, and they won't spend $2,000 on a laptop. Meanwhile, everything is done digitally, and there's files in hand. So Built is one of Australia's biggest and fastest growing construction companies. And when we talk about the business impact of collaboration, how does it really affect the bottom line? How does it move beyond being a tool to being an enabler? So when I started at Built 4 years ago, we might have put 1 or 2 tenders in a week. Using Dropbox, we were up to 15 tenders a week. We have remote teams, so being able to have a single file with multiple people commenting gives us a single point of truth for all our submissions. So if you're putting in 2 tenders a week and you've got a 50% success rate, and then you start putting in 15 tenders a week, and your success rate remains constant, you're up to 7.5 successful tenders a week. This forward-leaning, collaborative environment that they've created, because again, in construction, everything is outsourced. The architect is not your employee. The quantity surveyor is not your employee. You might have in-house engineers. You've got to deal with the planning authority. You've got to deal with the client. The complexity of these ecosystems, when you're trying to work at hand, requires simplicity. And that's really what we're getting at when we talk about collaboration. We're talking about bringing simplicity to the complexity and allowing people to do their work. So just going to finish off on one video again, which again is a very high-growing. It's a company called Movement. It's a fashion company in California, and this is a company without IT infrastructure. They just started and they needed to get going, and they've grown very well over the years, and they've got this very complex ecosystem of collaborators that they work with. So I'll just play this for you now.
We were college kids. We wanted to do something in the fashion world, and for us, there wasn't a brand that we really resonated with. Rather than doing it the traditional way, we were able to build a brand digitally through social media and other channels, and we quickly grew from $1 million in revenue our first year to $7 million the next, 30 the following, and kind of on and on from there.
We are a small team, but we operate at the same level as a company that has a couple hundred employees because we're using the right technology. Content is at the heart of everything we do. It is what keeps our brand unique. Without Dropbox Business, collaborating would not be nearly as efficient or easy. We are working with up to 100 different content creators at any given time.
A lot of it's on the road, so it's impossible to have an office or a routine. The mobile app is perfect because you can just upload images, get links, add comments. It's pretty much the desktop experience, just in your phone. With Movement, there's collaboration back and forth because the most beautiful product always comes from the joint vision.
Dropbox Paper allows you to put so many different forms of media in a very visual format. I've never come across an application that has allowed me to see all those things cohesively.
All of our content creators already use Dropbox. There's not many tools so widely used by the community that makes our life so much easier.
Movement is always trying to think ahead. Influencers, organic promotion of us and integrating Movement into their lifestyle and has given us a lot more reach than we may have had otherwise.
We want to focus on building a brand. As we keep things agile and lean, we're able to deliver more products, we're able to move quicker. We want to focus on partners that can help us scale. And from day one, we had Dropbox on our side.
So again, it's nice and trendy, and it would be great if we were all in California this morning on our skateboards. But the point here is that they created a brand, they manufacture in Asia, they have graphic designers, they have photographers, they have a social media following, and they've gone from 0 to 30 million in turnover within the space of a couple of years. We work around the corner, who are now all over Dublin. Again, will be an example of a customer of ours who are wall-to-wall Dropbox. And they, again, are growing at pace, disrupting an industry. Again, another buzzword, but that's the fact. That's what they're doing. So that's where we see the business impact of collaboration. So thank you very much for your time this morning. I'm happy to take questions if there's any questions in the room. Any starters? Give me a hard one, I can take it.
Maybe I'll start. You mentioned the Office 365 versus the Dropbox. Can you elaborate more on that use case?
Yeah. So the big thing is, like, it's not versus Dropbox. There would be no Dropbox if we went up against Microsoft 365. The point is that Office 365 is, they've turned a corner. They have gone into the cloud. It's been rolled out. Before, 2 years ago, when we were having this conversation, we were thinking about rolling out Office 365. Now it's out. And it very much depends on the business. So if the business has a very simple processes and they're moving spreadsheets around the place, well then Office 365 will do everything that you want to do. Once you start getting into big, chunky file types, and you start getting into people who are outside of your environment. So the one really is SharePoint. Okay, but the issue with SharePoint and SharePoint at scale is that nobody likes SharePoint. So nobody wants to use it. Nobody wants to administer it unless there's a SharePoint administrator in the room. But that's the point. It's that in theory they all work and they do the same thing that we do. But in an actual fact, what we're doing is being that bridge of gap between all your different freelancers and all your contractors and your big IT setup. So if you compare this on a feature by feature basis and it was just pure storage, well then yeah, you would just go for Office 365. But the BBC had Office 365 and it just simply wasn't dealing with that, from a technical perspective, it wasn't dealing with the file sizes, first of all. It wasn't dealing with the transfer, and it wasn't dealing with the permissions and who can do what and when they can do it and why they can do it. And it wasn't doing that in an easy fashion to make life easy for people. So we're very much user-centric and coming from the ground up. So that's what we do. We integrate into Office 365, we integrate with your Active Directory, but we also integrate with your G Suite. And there's a generation of people coming in here now, of your graduates, who don't really know what a file is. They never saw a filing cabinet. They never pulled out a file, went in, took out a file, a physical piece of paper, opened it up. They do everything. They do everything with links. They do everything with G Suite. They do everything with slides. And where we're very much setting ourselves up is the link between the two worlds.
Good presentation, Mannix. You drew in, and there was the example of the parole worker in Kansas. There was a lot of messy sort of workflows here and there, and then you drew sort of very nice, elegant diagram in terms of what it might look. Can you talk a little bit more about that particular platform?
So we just announced a couple of days ago, but we're going to have a major announcement in September. So what we want to be is we want to be the Switzerland of all of your information. We don't want to keep people outside. We don't have a closed ecosystem. We want to let everybody in a secure fashion that can fall under your remit. But specifically to answer your question, what we developed now is a surface. So Dropbox used to sit in the back, and it was just a drive, and it was hiding in the back, and it was hiding in plain sight. And it just works, and nobody ever even bothered about it. But what we're going to do is a surface on your Mac or on your Explorer where your Excel sheet can sit in with your Adobe file, which can sit in with your Autodesk file. If you want to open up a Slack conversation, you can open it up from that Central repository. If you want to start a Zoom call, you can do it from that. If you're using things like Atlassian, you can do it all from that centralized perspective. Crucially then, it's not just you. You can invite in your team. You can see who's in what folder, what they've done, and when they've done it. So that's where we're going. So real-time collaboration across all of the tools that people are using. Yeah. You're very nice today, guys. Come on, give me the hard questions. Somebody has them. You're all thinking them. Yeah.
So how do you handle, I guess one of the challenges that we see a lot of is people sharing content, and usually they take the fastest route and try and make everything a public link. And
Yeah.
There's a big difference between someone having the ability to restrict access and them actually doing it.
Yeah.
And obviously in that kind of environment where you have a lot of different types of workers, people come in and out of projects all the time, and how do you make sure the right people have access to intellectual property?
Yeah.
At the point they leave the project, don't have that.
Yeah, exactly. So from the administrator console, you can do all that at source. As an administrator, you can just do it off your laptop. You can provision and deprovision people. You can set global standards on links. You can give some people access to read-only material. You can give some people access to all of the material. If you're talking specifically about links, you can put an expiry date on the link. You can make it non-downloadable. We also have watermarking coming in as well. So that control element is very important, and that was really the evolution between us as a consumer company and sharing photos backwards and forwards to the requirements of everybody in the room here, where this is all great, guys, but I have a business to run, and I have a security team, and I have threats to my business. So you do it through the admin console. If somebody leaves the business, you can just move all their files to the new person, but you can control all those things at source. Yeah. Any last questions?
I suppose by integrating with Active Directory, if someone leaves the company by using ADFS or whatever, their account is disabled anyway.
Yeah. So that's exactly it. Not everybody is using Active Directory, but the vast majority of people are. But yeah, you can do it. You can do two ways. either way it suits you. Yeah, that's what. Sorry.
So one of our biggest challenges is we're all using Google Sheets, Google Docs, and as you say, links everywhere.
Yeah.
So what way does this manage, let's say, that side of it?
Yeah. So the big thing, technically, it's quite difficult for the technical guys. Everyone knows the file infrastructure, but the link then is, and they don't really talk to each other. So when we're doing these presentations, we have a big ecumenical discussion about are we using PowerPoint or are we using Google Slides, and there's some very trenchant views on either side. Basically, what will happen, is I don't have a slide for it, but basically what will happen is that you can, if you're sitting in Dropbox, you can open a Google slide from there. So it's always sitting in your Dropbox folder, right? It's not a folder per se. It's a folder visually for people. So if you have like a team of graphic designers and they really like using Google Slides, and the managing director has his Excel sheet in that folder. Say you're doing a product launch, and you've got the finance guys won't move away from Google Sheets, or won't move away from Excel, and you've got the Google guys. They can all live in the one. So you can open Excel and open Google Drive from your Dropbox folder. Yeah, and Adobe and your PowerPoint and all that, and your DWG files.